start with a poem. So Painted Crow. Last time, or the very first time we had gathered together, you and I, after many, many years, and your time overseas, your time in battle, when we came together with Mary and we sat at that table, and I listened to you and some of the things you had said, it inspired me to write this poem. So I want to start our conversation with this poem that I wrote that came out of that one tiny conversation, and this is where I'd like to see us have a conversation around that. So it goes like this. I cry, I weep, and then I put to sleep the part of me I call myself. I cry, I weep, and then I put to sleep the enemy and my humanity. I cry, I weep, no tears will seep through hardened hearts and shattered dreams of woman gone and soldier born. I cry, I weep, women raped by men who fight beside them until they need someone else to expend. I cry, I weep, my children sleep far away in another dream where I can never return. I cry, I weep, and then I sleep, caught in the never, never, never land between war and peace. I cry, I weep, and then I wait for sleep. So as you hear that, did I capture that? Did
Absolutely.
I capture it?
Absolutely. That is sort of when you come back, when you're there, when you come back, there's just this so uncertainty of who you thought you were, what you come back like, what parts are missing, how do you get back to where you thought you were when you left, and then you realize there's no getting back to it. It's just
like
not
you're forever
there.
changed, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
What happens to the younger women? You know, because, well, not to, you know, you're older.
Yes.
Okay. You're an older soldier.
I was one of the
over.
older vets, older soldiers to go to Iraq, so there was a lot of 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds. I was in my middle 40s when I went,
So you were like a mother to them.
Yes, absolutely.
Like a mother to them. And so tell me about them. Tell me about these women. Tell me about them as they came, and tell me about what you witnessed in their changes in just the short time after they arrived.
Well, it was really hard. It was hard to see. We got there with few resources for we were a truck driving unit, so we went there with few resources to actually protect our vehicles. There weren't enough security, so as truck drivers we had to perform our own security, and women were actually on the back of the vehicles with the M60s doing the security as they did convoys.
Did they know they were going to be having that role?
Well, they knew they were going to drive truck.
Yeah.
But they didn't know they were going to be in the back of a truck.
Being patrol.
And what you even see the physical changes there. Those M60s are very hard, very heavy and large, and they have machine guns back there, and their arms just become incredibly huge, and just from holding that and maneuvering that, and you see them sort of change before you, and then when something happens that they end up taking a life, and they come back, and they're supposed to have these teams that come and help them debrief, but for the women, they didn't show up.
Oh, how come you think?
Well, I don't know that they thought about it. If it had been a man come back, I think they would have sort of taken care of that. But as women, these women came, like one of them that was actually in one of my tents. She came in, she told the story, she was in tears of she had to shoot into the civilian population. They were being attacked, and what she did is she came, and there was actually two women, and they were really excited, and like their adrenaline was so high, and it was late at night already, and I said, you need to go to bed, just go to bed, it'll be all right in the morning, which I knew that it wouldn't, but that was what I could do at the moment.
Right.
And I expected for the team to come in the morning, and they never came.
Does that happen? I mean, was it supposed to be like sort of, what is that, like your triage team that comes and sort of helps you out when there's a killing or something like that?
Yes, when there's shots being fired or people, and they never came, and so I ended up with like 3 women in my tent in fetal positions, really angry at the person who was in charge, because it was a man who did a poor job at where they were supposed to go and changed stuff and whatever. So I ended up going to look for the team and saying, you guys need to come to my tent because I have a team of women there who are falling apart. And it took them probably a half an hour to get there. But if I wouldn't have gone to go get them, I don't know that they would have showed up.
How many women do you think? I mean, it sounds like every time I hear something about the war and what actually happens there, sometimes it seems like to me we were not prepared to send women into combat. We didn't prepare the women well. We didn't understand what would happen, and I don't think we're prepared for them coming back. I don't know. That's what it all seems like, means a lack of preparation in a lot of ways. Or maybe it's just the lack of really understanding what women need. Or maybe it's just even the idea that there's still this secret about what women are having to do. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that you have a lot of those pieces. Number one, for example, women who had GYN problems, there were no GYN doctors. You had to travel 4 hours to the nearest GYN doctor. And do you want to risk getting shot and losing blood on the way there, or just tolerate this until you can, go on leave or something? And most women just chose that because why am I going to go travel 4 hours to see a doctor who's going to do nothing for me because there really are no services, and then come back and really not have my problem solved? A lot of times doctors had to be called Germany because they had no resources on how to help women who were having these kind of female problems. So part of it was lack of preparation. They didn't really think about it. I don't know that people really thought about that there is no battle line, there's no battle zone, that anywhere you are is the battle zone.
Yes, that's important.
So if there are no lines to say over there's the war and over here is safety,
it's a safe zone, right?
Then that puts everybody in danger, and it makes everybody part of the war. And so I don't think they thought about that.
How are women in leadership over there? How are women in leadership? I mean, it seems to me sometimes, I don't know. If we're all in this situation and we're all sort of facing our life and death thing, you would hope we would all come together in some unified way so you have sort of a safety in numbers, like you have a pack or something. But I hear from different women that they didn't have that experience of feeling like they were part of something that could keep them safe. It seems like when I hear the stories of women coming back, yes, they had a battlefield, but then they had a battlefield within their own company, within their own units. They had a battlefield everywhere. There was no safe zone anywhere. So I'm wondering if women came together to help each other. Was there anything like that?
Well, rank kind of plays a part in that, and you end up having, everybody has a battle buddy. So you're supposed to not go to the latrine without your battle buddy, not go to the shower without your battle buddy, because of the rape that happens and things like that. And even that, it still happened. So you have your rank to deal with. In my case, like, for example, there was only me and one other E7. So she was my battle buddy. There was no choosing here,
Right.
And so that's kind of what happens. But there's also a lot of dissension amongst the women. We don't really stick together. And I don't know if because men play a role in that, a lot of them end up with boyfriends there, a lot of them end up, having just problems with their peers, competition in terms of getting promoted.
What it is that it sounds like to me that the challenges we have as a humankind here stateside in the United States, in our communities and wherever they are, when you go to battle, it sounds like the weaknesses of our human nature are magnified. The best part of our human nature can also have that same opportunity to be magnified. So when I think of that, I think maybe that's why, for me, as a DV agency, as a person who's part of this kind of part of the movement, why that's so important for us to join that, voice, some kind of way we have to have a connection. Tell me why you think it's important for an organization like ours to be part of this.
Well, it's really important. Number one, it takes what we have to deal with away from the military and to help us become ourselves again, or a semblance of ourselves. Try to find some places that we can go to that's safe, people who get us, people who are not going to backlash us for speaking our truth or telling our story, or sharing that story without our permission, without respect, without all of those things, which is a lot why women don't tell their story, because, you take it to the media and it just you become
exploited.
Very exploited. And so women are very hesitant to tell those stories for the same, and to be judged. There's a lot of judgment in women telling their stories. And so it's better just to keep silent, because you don't want to look unpatriotic. You don't want to look like you weren't part of the team. You don't want to look like that the militaries could be a bad place to be. And so you hide the story and you carry it. And I don't think that when we come back, we don't realize how heavy that is and how it can make you physically ill.
Yes.
And really separate you from your family and yourself. Alienate yourself from the life that you left. You don't even want to come back to it because it doesn't even mean anything anymore.
Oh, help me understand that part right there, because you've said that. I've heard you say that. I've heard other vets say that. I don't even know if you have the words for it, but if you could try to help me understand that.
Well, okay. So you go there and you're dealing, and first of all, let me say this, because I think this is a part that people think it doesn't happen anymore, and it really does happen. There is a lot of racism within the military. It has not gone away. And I watched it, and I became part of victim to that, along with many other people in my group. And it's very devastating to be part of a team that is supposed to have your back.
Right, in battle.
In battle,
Yeah.
that you're
Life
supposed
and
to
death,
be their
right.
battle buddy, and they're supposed to be your battle buddy, only to find out that you don't matter and you're expendable because of the color of your skin. And this is something that I know happens, and most people of color, most women do not talk about it because you sound unpatriotic.
Yeah.
But it's real. So you come home with that wound still. That's an old wound that gets reopened, okay? So you join the military because you want to be part of the team, or whatever reason, and you go be part of this team, and then you go to this life-threatening place, and you're really not part of the team.
Right.
Okay, so
Right.
a lot of those illusions are really shattered.
Yeah.
And you wonder, what am I doing here? Okay, so then you got to be there a year still after you figure that out.
Yeah, you probably figured that out in the first 2 weeks, right?
And then you're like, oh God, how am I going to survive
Right.
not getting killed by my peers in some kind of way,
Yeah.
which
I can
has
get
happened.
That. I can get that. I can totally get it.
And so then you come home, and you have to remember that while you were there for whatever length of time, what happens to you is that you forget about a future. You don't plan, you don't think about your
Right.
kids growing up. You don't think about getting old. You don't think about retiring. You think about, am I going to live through today?
Because death seems to be the thing that guides everything.
Yeah, and surviving.
Yeah.
Not
Death and
necessarily
surviving
death, but
yeah.
I don't want to be a
totally.
casualty.
Totally.
So that sticks in your brain every day. What do I have to do to survive? And so like myself, I never called home, very rarely. I very rarely wrote letters. Because I didn't want that connection.
Do you think that emotional connection just adds to the pain and the
Yeah.
suffering and the isolation.
Well,
even, huh?
what you don't want to do is have emotions while you're there.
Yeah, right. I remember my dad used to say that to me all the time.
You have to sort of
Right.
kind of
Yeah, shut it down.
shut it down
Yeah.
because you're going to see things or you're going to hear things or people that you care about are not coming back. And so you have no time to grieve that. You can grieve it for, an hour or whatever they're going to do, and then you got to move on to the next thing. So you really learn to shut that part of who you are. And as women, that's a lot of who we are.
Who we are, that's our nature,
So,
right?
we really shut it down. And you come home and first of all, you have to learn a couple of things in order to survive that. You have to learn to shut down what you feel. You have to learn that in order to kill another human being, you kind of have to hate them. So they have to teach you hate. And if you're a person of color, that's kind of hard when the enemy that you're looking at looks like you.
Yes, I can get that.
Which that happened to me a lot. They looked like, and they would ask me, they would say, well, what are you, And so that's really hard because they look like you.
Yes.
And you're like, this is the enemy?
Yes,
They make the same food you make,
Yes.
They pray a
Yeah,
lot in
real
a way.
similar,
yes.
right,
And I'm
right,
like,
right.
okay, this is really hard.
Yes.
And so you do what you got to do. You do what you got to do, and because you have your team. And so then you come back. You've learned how to hate. You've learned not to feel. You've learned that there's no future. And then there's no real brief that says, okay, they just say, welcome home. They give you a parade, blah, blah, blah. You're home. You still don't feel like you have a future. You still can't feel for your family.
Because you haven't come home here.
Yeah.
You have not come home inside
Your
yourself.
spirit is still over there, wherever
gotcha.
you left it.
Yeah, right.
So if it's left over there, there is no way to call it back
Yeah.
because they call it mental illness. They call it physical illness. They, you start drinking, you start doing all that. But your spirit stays over there. And I actually, for example, I had a friend of mine whose son died there. And he actually flew to where his son died to pick up the dirt of where his son died to bring his spirit home.
I know.
And I know a lot of people don't get that.
No, but yeah, I get it. I
but
totally get that. Yeah, I totally get that.
We haven't called it back, and so you can always tell because you look in their eyes.
Yes.
And there's nothing in there.
Yes. So to me, that's probably why I wanted us to get involved. When you're telling me that, it makes me understand, because not to that, I can't magnify it to that point, but I can say, as us witnessing victims of domestic violence, as us having survived the battlefields of our home, I also know as a child of a survivor, my dad was a combat vet. He was a POW. The domestic violence in my home was related to post-traumatic stress. I can remember my dad getting up in the middle of the night and walking perimeter checks every single night, long after he was way out of battle. When he was working for the American Red Cross, they sent him to Vietnam. I'm sure he got triggered all over again. And he never, ever, he died in that same, you're describing how he died. Wherever his spirit was as a POW in Korea, that's where his spirit still was. My father, as I knew him as a child, I always knew there was something missing with him. And I always knew he loved us, but he could never once show it to us. He never once let himself ever be vulnerable again. And I think the one time that I got an insight to something that you're saying is when he was in the middle of a flashback. Actually, he had an abscessed tooth, and that kind of sent him into a flashback. And this is the time when he told me about this very hate thing that you're talking about, how hate kept him alive, but the racism that he experienced in all of these things. And then he was saying how he got out of being, freed from being a POW and came back to the United States and couldn't vote. Couldn't even vote for the person who was going to send him back, So I think the challenge for women, for service people, but particularly for service women, is similar to how I felt about my dad, and I think how my dad must have felt about the military. Because I think the military gave me a life I would never have had. I've been exposed to people I would never be exposed to. I have the education and the foundation that a military community gave me. As a child of the 50s, I'd never have that. I'd be stuck in the project somewhere or some segregated place. So I'm grateful. On the other hand, the military is also the perpetrator. So it's like my father, I love him, he's my hero, but he's also my perpetrator. So I get that difficulty in wanting to get help and yet wanting to maintain your loyalty and your sense of patriotism. And I think out of this whole concert, out of this whole thing we're doing, I just want folks to understand that truth is not unpatriotic.
Right.
Truth is not unpatriotic. Truth is the only way I think we can build a nation that has true character. That's not a nation of illusions and a nation of myths, but a nation that I can't remember which of our tribes had the speaker that said the true test of the character of a nation is in how you will treat the women and the children, for they are the givers of life and the nurturers of life and the next generations. So I think for me personally, the connection to working with my sisters and that are coming back like you from war is to say we must do this together. I may not have had that, but I know enough to say you can't do this by yourself. I know enough to say here's a space we can figure it out together. I know enough to say that our silence will kill us, that we must use our voices. I know enough to say that truth is what sets us free, and yes, it pisses people off. And I also want us to be able to say to women, you do not need to suffer alone. You do not need to stay quiet. And I think the most patriotic thing we could ever do to strengthen our country, our nation, our armed forces, is to tell this truth. Because then you can't change if you don't know what needs to be fixed. And I'm so proud of you, Painted Crow. I'm proud because I know what it takes for you to do this. I know inside your heart and your spirit, from your life and your walk, what this is also going to cost you.
Yeah.
And I know for myself what it's going to cost me and what it's going to cost Mary to do this. But I think the three of us are dedicated to saying, I found a voice, so I'm going to use it. I found some courage, and I'm gonna call it up. And I've been given a vision, and I've been given you as my sister and I got something I think I can help with, and you've got something to help me with. And I think we're here at this time, like our Hopi elder said, to see who's in the river with us. We have to push off from the edge. We can't be afraid. And they may not be the people we want to walk with us. They should have been your sisters there. They should have been your commanding officers there. And they should have been our moms and our aunts and they should have been our fathers, and they should have been all those people should have been there. But that's okay. I think our power comes out of our pain. I think our pain will lead us to this purpose. But I'm proud to be your sister, and I'm proud to be in this with you. And whatever it is we have to Sundance to make this thing happen for all women, I will say that the true test of your Yaqui and Apache heritage and of my Cherokee and Native heritage is that we are going to do what we have to for the next generation of women and girls, which ultimately creates the dream of our country. You matter are universal words.
Yeah.
They're universal words. And I guess I just want all those young women to know they matter to us. We might be old gray hairs, and you might be some old sergeant here, but we are the ones that made the changes anyway. It's always been the grandmothers. It's always been the elders. And I think now is our time. I don't know. One last thing you want to say to them about this concert?
I do want to say I want to really speak an open invitation to all veteran women of all eras.
Yes.
Because I have actually come across many from other eras who still carry the story untold. Yes. And it breaks my heart to know that they have become elders with this story still carrying it alone. Yes. And just having known you for so many years, I trust this work, which is something that I do not speak casually. And for me to send this invitation to women to come and to share this space with us and share this healing music and this healing time to just acknowledge where we've been and where we are in a place that I know that I, as an NCO, would never put someone in a place that I wouldn't put myself in. That would never make somebody do something that I wouldn't do myself. And so, as that NCO who still feels responsible for all these vets, I still feel a responsibility to help them. And in whatever elements or whatever happens to me, doesn't really matter. I'm really passionate about that, and I really want to send this invitation to a place that I know is safe, to a place I know that we can meet and greet each other and plant some seeds that will grow corn for ourselves as mothers, because a lot of us are mothers who have come home and are challenged with our children because of our PTSD, who are challenged with marriages because of our PTSD, and find ourselves alone or without our children because they were taken away while we were serving. There's so many stories. And I truly, truly know that by telling the story is the first part of healing, because I learned that over the years. And I've learned that with you and my other sisters over the years, and the grandmothers that held me up when I couldn't hold myself up. And so this is an extended invitation to all women to just be present. And you don't have to do anything. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to be anything. Just be here and be here now, and take a risk, because there is nothing to lose here. And everything to gain.
Thank you for that. I want to add to that, and I'll add this one other challenge, and it's a challenge I'm going to offer to everyone who is not a vet, and everyone who has been privileged enough to never have walked a journey of abuse and trauma. I'm going to say, come join our movement. Come join and be a peace advocate. Come be an ally. Help us understand that there are people beyond us survivors who care. Help us know that your voice is saying that not only do we matter, but our future matters and our children matter. And we need you to walk with us too. We need you to come to this concert and fill up those seats and help those vets also know that you are right there. So I'm going to send a challenge out to all of the folks who are not related to domestic violence or abuse and trauma or war. We're part of this greater humanity, and every one of us is needed. So if you care at all about the future of women and children of this nation, then you should be at this concert.
Or support a vet to get there.
Get a vet there. If you can't go, buy a ticket for a vet. I'm really grateful to you, Painted Crow. I know you came a long ways to be here today, and I know your journey of your whole center of your wheels around your health. We're always going to pray for that. And I'm just grateful that Creator has put us here today and Mary with us. So for whatever we've been given, that we're willing to do what we need to for the greater good of our sisterhood. This is the legacy I hope we can leave.
I want to call out to Mary's name, and just really send gratitude to her for her openness in being part of this, and in doing whatever is necessary for her to show up.
And so vets out there, when you get this, you want some healing, you call us. You want us, we're ready to take this down to the Central Valley. We're ready to take this down on the road. We want to bring a space and a healing space for you to tell your stories and come home. Come home so we can build a new future. Come home and let us help you do that. We don't know, we're not perfect. We don't know, we're not magicians. We just know when women come together and we care and we create a safe and sacred space, then we can heal. and we know that.
I think it's really important to say this because I find this is a challenge in that when we're talking about veterans and their pride in serving, and like what you're saying, that it's not unpatriotic to tell the truth,
Right.
is really important, because one of the challenges that I have faced with many veterans, period, is that to say anything that goes against whatever you thought you were doing, or that it's not going against, it's really opening something inside you that is weighing you down. And I spent 20 years, 22 years, you know, and my sons are both veterans, you know, and so it's not like I'm unpatriotic to my country,
Right.
but I am going to tell the truth about it.
Hey, our country, First Amendment rights, free speech. You know, I think when you're telling the truth, you are being as patriotic as you can be.
Yeah.
It's the First Amendment, and we are living it out loud. So come forward. Your voice is actually what created this country. It's our voice is what sustains us in this world, and we want to have an accurate voice.
And we don't have to agree with what we hear.
Nope.
You know, and that's what I think I really want to say is I hear many stories, I don't agree, but it's not my story.
Exactly.
And
right.
so what I can do is respect that
That's
story,
Right. That's right.
listen to the story,
That's right.
and try to understand the story.
That's right.
But it's not my job to change their story.
That's right.
And so I just invite everyone to come from that plain field of just allowing the story
Right.
to be told without
Exactly.
judgment.
Exactly.
That's really important because we get caught up in that really
Exactly.
easy.
And I think and judgment is the thing that is going to separate us all.
Yeah.
We're really wanting this to be a night of hope, healing, and unity. So for these 2 hours, we're going to give that gift to ourselves. And for everyone who'll see the pieces of this or all the little things that we'll do along the way, that's what we're saying. Take a little bit of time and invest in peace. Peace in mind, peace of heart, peace among us. Invest 2 hours or $30 ticket for someone to have just a moment of peace. Very good. Thank you so much. I love you.
I love you too. Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.